want to jump into my first topic. I have it loaded up here, and this is right in my title, MCU versus Variety. But specifically, I want to talk about what they said about Nia Dacosta and the whole Marvel situation. So I'm going to bring up that article now. I'll short myself. Let me know if you guys can see it. But this is straight from Variety. This is a long, thoughtful article that's talking about all the turmoil that supposedly is happening inside of the MCU. A lot of it has a lot of fact mixed in with a lot of rumors and stuff like that that people are latching onto. People are more latching onto the rumors than the actual facts that's spread in here, and you have to read through it to see what's what. But one thing I wanted to point it out, because I think this article is going to be very important as the year passes on, is the Marvel situation. The things that they said about the actual Marvel's movie that's coming out and the director. Right here, it started here. It said the Marvel machine was pumping out a lot of content, which is a fact. It's very true. Compared to what they were doing before, they were pumping out way more content than before. It did get to a point where there's too much. I personally don't believe so. So that's an opinion, not a fact. I think I was fine with it. A show every 4 to 5 months is not that bad. We get NCIS shows every single week. So I don't think that of a 6-episode series every 4 or 5 months is that much. But some people do. It says they were burning people out on superheroes. Were they burning people out on superheroes? It's possible. It says the more you do, the tougher it is to maintain quality. That is very, very true. Quality control may have been an issue for a lot of people for the MCU shows and movies, especially with the movies. When it comes to like Thor, Love and Thunder, Quantumania, personal opinion, I think the quality control could have been a little tighter on those films, so they could have been home runs. They tried experimenting with breaking in some new characters like Shang-Chi, a movie that I thought was great, and Eternals, another movie I thought was really great, but mixed results. That's very true. Shang-Chi was a hit. It did really well at the box office. It did well, in terms of reviews, but it didn't gross $1 billion, which everybody thinks every Marvel movie has to do, which I don't think it does. But the Eternals, which to me is actually a better movie than Shang-Chi. To me, it's not as fun as Shang-Chi, but I really like what it had to say. Was a total bomb, and it didn't do well with reviews in terms of the critics and audience. So, and the budgets are really big. That's what they're talking about. So this is what the part here that's really interesting. When you start talking about the Marvels, there's been a lot of negative attention on this so far. It says the Marvels, which opened in theaters on November 10th, will struggle to get the ball past the infield, at least by Marvel outside standards. The movie, which cost $250 million, which is going to be a conversation we're going to have in the future about inflated budgets. And they talk about this in the article, why the budgets are inflated in terms of poor pre-production planning. Pre-production is the most important part of having a film not be so bloated in terms of its budget, and planning it out so it can come smooth, and then you having room to experiment with your budget. And Marvel has not been doing that because Bob Chapek wanted things to come out faster. And the pandemic hurt him a little bit as well. Sees Brie Larson reprising her role as Captain Marvel. Is tracking to open to $75 to $80 million, which is a lot lower than normal Marvel films. And it's far below the $185 million that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness took in domestically in its debut weekend. I feel like that's an unfair comparison because Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness had all the cameos and all the things that you could possibly want in a superhero film for fans to geek out, and it almost made $1 billion because of that. And I think if the movie was consistently tonally and just people understood what was like they were going into, I think that it would have made more money, honestly. But I think the fact that people thought it was going to be this wild ride where we're going to jump through universes, Multiverse of Madness, I think that it hurt it just a bit. That's an opinion. Here we go. It says directed by Nia Dacosta, a director I'm really excited about. I think her Candyman movie that she did was really, really good and a really strong debut for somebody to do for a studio film. The Marvels unite Larson's heroine with two superpower allies, Tiana Paris, who I'm a fan of, Monica Rambeau, introduced in WandaVision, Iman Vellani, who I think is one of the best castings that we've had in the MCU in a long time, as Kamala Khan, as Miss Marvel. But instead of seamlessly building on the success of Captain Marvel, this movie resulted in 4 weeks of reshoots to bring coherence to a tangled storyline. See, this here is we don't have any factual like, where did this come from? You know, where did the factual part come from of the 4 weeks of reshoots? Where did the factual information come saying that the storyline was tangled? And I guess I get what they're doing with the tangled part because that's the storyline for the characters being tangled and switching places. It's really clever by this writer. But we don't know if this is fact. This is just hearsay. They didn't say sources. They didn't say their source gave them this. This is just what they're just giving this information. So we have to take this very lightly. Then eyebrows were raised again when Dacosta began to working on another film while the Marvels was still in post-production. The filmmaker moved to London early this year to begin production prepping for her Tessa Thompson drama Hedda. A representative for Dacosta declined to comment. I really want to highlight this because something I'm going to talk about coming up. The way this is phrased and the way the drama is put, something I'm going to show you guys today that came out today is really going to put a spotlight on the wording of this. If you're directing a $250 million movie, it's kind of weird for the director to leave with few months to go. Says a source familiar with the production. Source. Who knows who that is? The Marvels has been set to release. The Marvel has its release date moved back twice. Once swapped with places Quantumania, which was deemed further along, and again when its debut shifted from July to November to give the filmmakers more time to tinker. But the extra time didn't necessarily help. In June, Marvel, which traditionally only solicits feedback from Disney employees and their friends and families, took the uncharacteristic step of holding a public test screening in Texas. This audience gave it middling reviews, right? And then they go on to talk about, them adding the six Avengers back and things like that. You can go in the article and see all the different things and try to mix in what is fact or fiction. I want to get into the comments real quick and see what you guys are saying about this particular. If you're not talking about this particular subject, I'll hold it off later. I'll star it because I just want to, be able to get through this. And also I'm going to be clipping these conversations up into separate videos. So let's see. What do you guys have to say? The Marvels actually looks marvelous. Like the wordplay, it does. I think it looks really strong. From the first teaser trailer, I thought this movie looked strong. I wasn't one of those people who felt like it didn't look that good or anything like that. I always thought that it looked really well, and I liked how fun it looked. I like how different it looked. So I definitely agree. This is, all my opinion. I'm really excited to check out the movie. There are problems. I don't think everything is perfect, but I think it's better than people are giving it. I want to play a video for you guys that I found. This is a great interview by a guy named uh his channel name is Jake's Takes. I put the link to the video in the description of this video. Definitely check out the full interview because he did a really great job of asking questions to Nia Dacosta that I thought were really great and really made her answer some really cool questions without spoiling it. But I wanted to particularly talk about a specific piece of this interview that counteracts what and he acts and pay attention to what he says specifically about the whole her leaving the production. This is the first thing that's counteracting the Variety article, which makes me feel like it's more of a hit piece than factual. So here we go.
The next 6 months.
Oh, that's fine.
I hope this next question comes out with the positivity that it is intended, because I'm such a fan of your work. A lot has been made of the fact that you went into production on another film when the Marvels was in post-production. But 30 years ago, Steven Spielberg went into production on Schindler's List when Jurassic Park was in post-production, and people applauded him for it. I'm just sort of curious, like,
before she answers, you hear that, right? Steven Spielberg, one of the greatest of all time, did the same exact thing that she did, and got praised. But she's getting a lot of crap for it. Really, really dwell on that and why that's happening.
Like, what is the difference between what he did 30 years ago that everyone still goes nuts about and what you did? I honestly, I don't see the difference.
It's interesting. I mean, I think there's just a lot of energy and criticism around Marvel anyway, so I'm not surprised. But for me personally, it was literally just that they moved the date of the film 4 different times. And so instead of it being a 2-year process, which I was deeply committed to, it became a 3.5-year process. So every time the date moved, and they knew the entire time that I had an obligation, a greenlit movie with people who are waiting for me. And I pushed that, and I pushed it again, and then I pushed it again. And then eventually we all knew, like, okay, if this pushes again, I'm not going to be able to be in LA to do the rest of this in person. So we just figured out a way to like do it remote. We figured out the best process. And actually at the time that I left to go to London to start prep on my next film, everyone was so clear about what the film was, what we wanted. Everyone knew what I wanted. So it really wasn't the dramatic sort of thing that I think people are feeling like it is. So yeah.
Well, I feel like anyone who, granted.
So, guys, I just want you guys to understand when these articles come out by these respected publications, usually stuff like this is posted by Discussing Film and these Twitter online discussing people that posted a bunch of rumors and things, clickbaity things to get you to listen, especially if you're already in the mind state of it. I went through the article and I couldn't believe it, but I really sat back and processed it. And first of all, the article already told of something that was fictional. It said that it was only pushed twice, but in where she said it was pushed 4 times because of different things going on with COVID, with and the pandemic, with other reshoots, with the reshuffling of the schedule and things that were happening. And she just proved that what the sources that they're getting this from are not exactly already correct. And she talked about how she was still involved with the post production. What I think the way they worded it, especially with the eyebrow raise and all the wording, they made it sound like she left the production to do something else because she was frustrated and she's done with it and she didn't be there anymore and she just left it alone. And she was there remotely. And she continues to say on in the video, she talked about how like by the time she left, the movie was finished in terms of like they knew exactly what it was supposed to look like, what was supposed to happen. This post production. So this is cleaning up messes, fixing up VFX and CGI, doing voiceover work and different things like that. So they weren't like the movie wasn't done and she just left. She left to London because she had an obligation and she continued to work on this film remotely, just like Steven Spielberg did from Jurassic Park to Schindler's List. I'm not saying the Marvels is gonna be like Jurassic Park, but the fact that they are coming at it in that way and people stuck on it and like trying to come at Nia Dacosta was raising an eyebrow to me. So the fact here is, and I'm going to take it from the director's word of mouth and not Variety with their sources, is the fact that she continued to work on the film. She was deeply involved in the film and moved a couple of times. Every director has obligations. She is a new director that's going to keep trying to get jobs and make films. And she had to hop off. And it's not the first time. We've seen many other directors do so, some of the greatest of all time, work on multiple films at the same time, especially if it's far along in production. So my opinion on the situation, I think the Variety article has truths in it. It has a lot of truths in it, but they have a lot of hit piece points in it that they knew people would latch onto, and it clicks and cause conversation, and a lot of people want to talk about. And I think what's happening here and why this is happening to Marvel is because one, the companies or the franchises that usually mess up and people like to attack are quiet. Star Wars, Ahsoka, whatever what you say, the show overall is a success. I think the people who are fans of that universe, the Filoni universe, really like the show despite it having issues, and it has charted on the Nielsen charts high. And in a couple of weeks, I'll start talking about streaming on this show too, but I got to get things in order. The show will evolve as I go. And so Star Wars is quiet. There's no movie announcements. There's nothing that's going crazy with the Star Wars. The DCU is done, right? The DCU has one more film to come out, and that's Aquaman. The trailer will actually look good, where it had most people having a positive response going, this looks great, this looks good, or some people are curious. So they can't attack the DCU, especially now that James Gunn has been quiet. They can't attack the DCU. Something that didn't even start yet because James Gunn finally hopped off Twitter and stopped responding to everything. So we can't attack the DC universe like we do every 4 months or every month anymore. So, and then the Monsterverse is completely, quiet as well. So they have to attack the big boy. And I think that this is what it is. It's a hit piece on Marvel to generate clicks because things are pretty quiet. The actor strike is hurting a lot of news, and this is what they have to do. And I think as time passes, a lot of things that's in this article is going to be proven to be half truths as things keep happening. Things about Jonathan Majors being recasted or them going away from Jonathan Majors. That's a very Warner Brothers early on not having a head of Marvel decision, or I should say DC decision of just changing like that, right? I don't think that's what Kevin Feige and the team is doing. I think that now that Bob Chapek is gone and Bob Iger is there, he was there with Kevin Feige the whole time while the MCU was like this. I think they're going to put things in perspective. So that's what I have to say about that. Those are my personal opinions, separating the fact from the fiction to the rumor, showing you guys what's going on. I want to specifically talk about that. Guys, before I move on to the next topic, which kind of overshadowed this Variety article very fast. Tell me how you guys feel about this Variety article overall and how you feel about what they said about Nia Dacosta and the video I showed. Let me go through these comments. But yeah, drop those in the live chat. And if you're watching this afterwards, drop them in the comments below. I will respond to you afterwards. Kenny agreeing with the great Nia Dacosta. Can't have women on the screen. I know Clay, he always says that. And that, I think that's part of it too. I think that female directors get held to a different standard than male directors. I think that might be a part of it as well. They pushed her screens 3 to 4 times. She got her other contracts to fulfill. Exactly. I feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle. Nia seems a little frustrated with some of the MCU creative process, but the story was definitely blown out of proportion. Yep. She definitely has said things about being frustrated about the process. She made some comments a couple weeks ago, but overall, I think any process of making a movie is going to have some frustration, especially when you're making a studio movie where you're not in full control. Hey, Spoiler Kings, what up, man? Thank you for joining me. This is probably Tank. Variety sucks ass. The way Hollywood is trying to sabotage Captain Marvel and Brie Larson is humorous to me. Yeah. She said one thing that I thought was made sense and positive, and they've just taken the time to come at her. What Dacosta did is a fairly normal thing. Exactly. Nia won me over when she said she has a reference to Final Fantasy Advent Child in the movie. She's a total nerd. I'm so excited for her. I hope this movie does decently well. It's a big budget. I hope that it hits 100 million, maybe 90 million instead of 70 or 50, because that's where it's tracking. We'll talk about it later in the box office tracking. But I'm rooting for her to win. Okay, so hey, thank you everybody for watching this section of this before we go to the next part. Thank you for watching it. If you're watching this afterwards and this is cut out, drop all your comments down below and let me know what you think about the Variety article, what they said about Nia Dacosta, what Nia Dacosta's response was, and all the other interviews that she's done. I think you guys should go check out all her interviews. They've been really, really interesting, especially Jake Takes. I had to go subscribe to this dude because he does a really good job. So yeah. Check all those things down below. All the links I have in my description, and comment and subscribe and like the video. And we're going to move on to the next subject.